Council.
WOKB, Winter Garden, Orlando.
Welcome to another edition of Real Family Talk. Hello. Welcome to another edition of Real Family Talk. This is your host, Jay Real. Hope everybody's having a great Tuesday evening out there. It's a little wet in the city, the great city of Orlando, but we are hanging in there, man. Let's go ahead and talk to the people in the house with me tonight. How you doing, Mr. King? How you doing tonight?
You know I'm always blessed when I'm in the building. Indeed.
Awesome. Miss McCray, how you doing tonight?
I'm blessed. What's up, everybody? Excellent.
And Mr. Jeremy, how we doing tonight, Jeremy?
Oh, I'm good. How y'all doing out there?
Awesome. We're doing good, man. We're doing good. And we're going to have a guest calling in this evening as well. Ms. Teslyn Figaro. Teslyn Figaro is going to be calling in and joining our conversation this evening. We're going to talk a little bit about Stand Your Ground tonight. And talk about what's happening across the country with a lot of these rallies that the Reverend Al Sharpton has been sponsoring through his National Action Network. 100 cities over this past weekend holding rallies. So a lot of the main points that they talked about was getting justice for Trayvon, of course, and pressuring the federal government or the Department of Justice to press federal charges against George Zimmerman in the death of Trayvon Martin, as well as rallying to change, or I should say repeal, the Stand Your Ground laws that exist in about 24 states across the country. So we're going to talk about that this evening. But before I get there, man, I just got to shout out Pastor Derek L. McCray. Today was his birthday, today was his birthday, but also included in that, the city of Orlando declared today Pastor Derek L. McCray Day. So shout out to Pastor Derek L. McCray for that.
Yeah, I like to see family doing big things.
That's awesome.
What up, cuz?
Officially Derek L. McCray Day.
Yes.
Happy birthday, definitely.
July 23rd.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. So shout out to him, man. But so let's jump right in here, man. And I know Teslyn will be joining us here soon. Just the general premise on what's been going on. What do you guys think about these rallies that were happening across the country? How you guys feeling about this movement that's occurring right now?
I think it's a good thing. I really do. I think it's a good thing. I think it's starting a conversation and a dialogue that not only that I hope that we can come together with these rallies, then come together and make some actual progress. Like these same numbers, this same passion needs to come out when it's time to vote for these laws. And that means the general election, the big elections to the small elections. We need to be aware and still maintain this fire throughout the year, not just 2 weeks, 3 weeks into this, a month after. This needs to continue. So I think it's a good thing.
I agree. I think one of the positive things behind this is that when is the last time you have seen, especially make national news in 100 cities, to come together for prayer?
Yeah.
To me, that was the most positive thing out of anything, just to come together for prayer. That's a big thing because usually, they don't want to cover religion on the mainstream media. They don't want to talk about it. They shy away from it. But I think that was one of the biggest things that come out of it.
I completely agree. I definitely have to say with all the prayer that's going on and the unity that is going on amongst black people and amongst people in America, because it's not only just black people that's coming together.
Correct.
It's everybody. They're seeing something that happened that's a tragedy, and they're finally trying. It's a stepping stone to making some form of a change or letting their voices be heard, that, hey, something happened, we didn't like it, and we're going to at least attempt to do something about it, and we're going to show you that we're serious. Finally, something has stepped up.
Well, let me ask you guys this question, and you can join the conversation this evening. 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. One of the things that has kind of caught my attention about all of this is that we're kind of, like you said, we're running on this emotional high. And so based on the results of this case, we're kind of, I guess, called into action, if you will. But one of the issues that I see is that let's tackle the stand your ground concept for a moment. I mean, don't you agree? In order to truly affect change and stand your ground, yes, black people going out and voting, that will be a benefit. And having our black congressmen in the state talking about it and advocating changes to it, that obviously is a benefit. But if we're going to change the stand your ground, don't you agree that there really needs to not be a dialogue centered around black folk? Doesn't the dialogue have to expand to just, beyond black folk?
Well, if you look at the vigils, 100 cities, it wasn't just black folk in that crowd. It was Hispanics, it was whites, it was Asians, it was everybody. So,
but let's look at percentages, though. If you're right, there was some there, but if you had to put a percent to it, would you say that it was probably maybe 5%, maybe at most 10%?
That doesn't matter, though. The percentage doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, that they were there. And and like they say, that Trayvon could have been anybody's son, could have been a white man's son, a Chinese man's son. Zimmerman was not white, so it's not a black and white thing. It could have been anybody's son, and they were there. The percentages really don't matter.
It don't. Well, doesn't it matter, the percentage, when you're talking about voting and causing congressmen to change their mind about a law that pretty much in the state of Florida, I'll just deal with Florida because I live in Florida, pretty much in the state of Florida, was voted overwhelmingly to pass. The governor has already gone on record to say he doesn't think there's a problem with it. The panel that set out to review it pretty much said there wasn't a problem with it. So don't you think in this environment you truly can't have a conversation about stand your ground until you incorporate more of an inclusive conversation, which for all intents and purposes at the moment is not? Don't you? I mean, or do you really think it is being inclusive of everyone, the conversation that's going on?
I mean, it has to start somewhere. And if we're going to come together and this is our fight, this is our thing that we're going to come together on and make moves, then so be it. Now, I want to give a shout out to the Dream Defenders that I believe they're still seated in the Capitol right now in Florida. Spearheaded by a rattler, Mr. Philip Agnew. I had to put that out there.
Of course you did.
They are still there. And they met with the governor, Monday or Tuesday, and he sent several different people of his cabinet to speak with them, but they're not going to leave, apparently. They're not going to leave until some kind of change happens. So I think it just will start another dialogue. It will push towards something else. Something positive has to come from all this mess. I believe it.
Our guest is on the phone tonight. How you doing tonight, Tesleen?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. You got any comments you want to add to the conversation?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's good to join you guys again. And
no problem. We enjoy having you.
This is not the first time we've talked. I have several comments, but just kind of chiming in on, I heard a little bit about what you were saying. I had to turn down my volume, but I just want to really speak the truth in how this is another distraction, and another distraction politics. It sounds great to be positive, and we all came for prayer, and we all sang Kumbaya, but at the end of the day, no results were achieved in the rallies recently, as well as the rallies on last year. When we say, there have been a few changes, sure, the task force committee, which there's been about 10 points, 10 recommendations that they did actually suggest, but no one held your legislators accountable, in particular your black legislators. No one made any fuss about the law being amended. No one made any fuss about the law being repealed. No one said anything at all. We had the rallies. We passed the offering plate around. Plenty of people made money off poverty pimping. But yet at the end of the day, the bigger issue at hand was not handled. And so when we keep saying that we have to get out and vote, the question is, do you even know who you're voting for? Do you have any facts on that legislator, or just are you assuming because that's a black legislator that they're always voting in your favor? The biggest thing that I've been talking about on the radio lately, Jimmy, is the fact that Al Sharpton and everyone else organized millions of people to go buy Arizona iced tea, when the fact of the matter is that Trayvon was drinking Arizona watermelon fruit punch. No one caught that. So I know people say, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it has to do with the point that you're not reading for yourself, you're not finding out the facts, and the only thing that came out of buying Arizona iced tea was the fact that you pushed up the stock of Arizona iced tea, and no one got a job out of it.
Iced tea and Skittles. They had bought plenty of iced tea and Skittles this weekend.
Right. And so when my employee, who was working at the time, who was a young lady who I worked with quite a bit on her speech and her dialect and being able, reminded me quite a bit. I mean, I meet Miss Gentels all the time, hired about 200 students in Florida, in the Orlando area, and not one of them had transportation. Perhaps if Trayvon had a car, maybe he would have never been walking. You know, there's bigger issues that we have to talk about besides just the race, besides just the law. Let's get down to the fact that African Americans still are 13.7% of unemployment. The church has figured out that money changes things. The question is, when will we? You need money to run for office. You need money to put politicians in. You need money to get politicians out. And more importantly, you need to have a job. And African-American men will continue to be stereotyped based on the facts. You know, we have to look at the facts. President Obama said it very clear. Yes, we are set aside, but a lot of those crimes are real. People are robbing, and guess what? It's going to be more robbery.
Right.
So until you give a person an opportunity to earn an income, you're going to continue to see somebody being stereotyped for robbing somebody, because guess what? They might actually be robbing. Might come rob you.
Right. And to kind of to chime in here, you know, going back to get on talk about the rallies and their efforts towards stand your ground, you know, I don't want to sound negative. You know, I agree with you guys. It's nice to see us, you know, wrapping around something, but at the same time, you know, any movement has to have a purpose. It has to move somewhere. Mm-hmm. And to me, the biggest problem with all of these rallies is that 98 to 95% of the people at the rally are black. When we have forums, most of the people at the forum are black. You know what I mean? We're not engaging, you know, white people, because I mean, if you're going to change this law, you're going to need white people to change this law. Black people aren't going to make it happen. So you got to engage them, and I think, to me, you know, in order to engage them, you have to have a bigger conversation than, you know, George Zimmerman should have been convicted of murder, right, and so we need to, you know, end these stand your ground laws so that there's no more Trayvons. Like, there's got to be a bigger conversation than that.
Jimmy, let me point out, it's not even just the white people need to engage young people as leaders. It's time for the older generation to sit down. I appreciate everything that they've done, but until you allow younger leaders to engage young people, and you know, I talk about this all the time. This is the reason why I didn't talk about this on Facebook for the last 2 weeks. This is the reason I didn't get involved in any of this hype. This is the reason why I didn't go downtown to do any of the rallies last year when all of the alleged leaders ran up there to get on stage and haven't done anything since. I cannot stand hype. I can't stand a bunch of talk. I can't stand poverty pimping. Why don't you allow the young leaders to actually get engaged? When I ran my campaign, I got a lot of criticism for involving producers and DJs and people who actually move more people than most of these alleged leaders can move all year long, because they were looked down upon as, you know, well, they don't know politics or they're not involved, and pretty much the older generation holds hostage. Now, I'm saying this by somebody who has sat at the table on public policy and actually voted on public policy, so I'm definitely not speaking out the crack of, you know, the side of my neck. I'm saying for a fact that a lot of these leaders in charge of these civic organizations and a lot of elected officials are holding those positions hostage, and they're not allowing us to engage young people and relate to young people the way young people need to be related to. You don't have to agree that it's a happy hour that may galvanize us, but if that's what galvanizes us, then that's what galvanizes us. You don't have to like the fact that hip-hop galvanizes us, but if that's what works, that's what works. But because of ego and pride and greed and money. See, I'm focusing on the blacks. I'm talking about the ones that came and said they were going to represent me. Let's quit talking about the white people. Let's quit talking about what the white people are doing. Let's talk about what the black people are not doing. This is the reason why millions and billions of dollars are being snatched from a lot of these programs, because they have not only not reduced our crime in our communities, have not reduced, increased unemployment, have not reduced poverty. They haven't even put a dent in it. And it's because of the leadership holding on to those positions. And that is the reason why the NAACP was running a convention that very same weekend that acquittal came down, and nobody was nervous to send that man free. You know why? Because there is no more clout. They could care less about Jesse and Al and everybody else running down with rhyming words because it does nothing. You stood outside in Sanford saying no justice and no peace for 15 minutes. And after that, you wrapped it up and went to see a reality show. Be for real, that's a joke. I live in Sanford. That's a joke.
If you want to join this conversation, 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. What do you think about what Tesleen has to say, Mr. Curry?
I mean, she's speaking some truth to it. I want to go back to something that you said earlier, J. Real, when you mentioned that it's not going to happen with the black folks. I take offense to that. Like,
I can't hear. I'm sorry.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, I take offense to that for you to
sorry,
say.
I can't hear her at all, Jimmy. And I'm sorry. I know she's talking to me, but I can't hear her at all.
I'm just speaking in general. It's not directed towards you. But so what I'm saying is, my train of thought. It does need to start with us, and we do need to pay attention to details. We need to be educated on what we're doing from everything, and that's what I'm saying. Hopefully, like you're saying, nothing has happened. It's just been a week. This was Saturday that these 100 city vigils happened. There was one here in Orlando last Wednesday. Things need time to develop. I'm hoping from this, beyond the marching, beyond the chants, that something more can happen, some actual work, some movement.
Exactly, because like I said, everything it has to start somewhere.
Right.
You just can't jump straight to home plate unless you hit a home run. Other than that, you got to go to first base, second base, third base, and then you may get home.
Right. Well, that sounds good, but sitting at the table with public policy and actually seeing what's going on behind the scenes, I didn't hear what the young lady said, and I apologize. You don't have the phone set up. I can't hear her at all, but I did hear the first thing she said, which is, I take offense, and that's okay. People can be offended by it.
Not to you.
I'm giving you the facts on working behind the scene in politics, voting on public policy, working with these politicians, actually hearing what they say behind the scenes, actually watching the things that don't get done. I don't want to call anybody out, but I assure you, some people that I've worked with in the past, the people that I've had some very candid conversations with, I promise you they're listening to the show because they think that I'm going to call them out personally. So the things that I'm saying is not about offending what people see and the hope of the change on the outside and what feels good. I'm simply giving you the facts. And until we are employed and working, then black men, particularly black men, are going to continue to be targeted, going to continue to have problems, and crime starts with not having a job. And we have yet to talk about the fact that black people are still with the highest unemployment rate, and all this ties to jobs. And this is not, again, talking out of me just guessing. I've put people to work with felons, ma'am. I've hired over 500 people in this community, and I know what a job does. I know how it stops people from being on drugs. I know how it stops people from robbing people with felonies. I know the difference that it's made, and I know what's not being talked about on the behind the scenes as well as on the front. And we keep talking about it have to start somewhere, but when is it going to start? It started for this Hispanic community. It started for the gay community. It started for women. When the hell is it going to start for the African American community? What are you waiting on?
I think where we fail a lot, and I have to give a shout out to Jason Henry. He wrote a blog about this a couple of days ago. Where we fail as a community is we do really well at using our emotions to show people that we are moved by things. What we don't do very well is put money behind the things that we support. And I think that's where we fail. It's not enough to hold a rally and talk about how we're disappointed and we're gonna not stand, we're gonna stand our ground and blah 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 blah. But when are you going to put money behind the efforts that you want to support? Because that's what's going to take. It took money to put stand your ground into place. It's going to take money to remove it from the law. So I think that's where we fail is money.
Well, guess what? And shout out to Jason Henry, love him to death, but perhaps Jason Henry should have got more than 30 petitions. He was on the ballot for a year, was required to get several hundred, and got 30 in a whole year. He did plenty of blogging, plenty of talking. Rosalind Johnson got over 500 petitions in 2 weeks. So that sounds good. The blog sounds good, and not trying to be, again, you guys come from a different standpoint. I come from a standpoint of just being serious about putting people to work and actually knowing what's going to change. I have probably half of my second generation of my family who's been locked up and in prison. So this is very, very a very passionate issue to me. And talking sounds good, but when you go look up at the works of the person that you just quoted, they did no work, even as president of the Young Democrat Party. So at the end of the day, that's why he couldn't raise any money. So that sounds good. But again, it comes down to the work.
Well, I agree.
What are you going to do? But I'm saying, I'm just giving you an example of how I do this for real.
Right.
We can't just bring somebody up who hasn't done the work. We see what it looks good on the blog. We hear, this person did so-and-so. But when you go look at their record and you see what they've actually done, they have not done the work.
Well, hold on one second, Tesla.
Accountable.
I agree, and I'm not here to promote Jason Henry in any way in terms of what he's trying to do politically. I'm talking about his. I think his words though his words and what he's saying hold true, because you talked about how the gay community is getting it done and the Hispanic community is getting it done. Well, one of the ways that they're getting it done though is through creating funds to push efforts, from a financial standpoint, because this is America. America runs on money. So when you put up money, things move. I know it's not right. I know we don't like it, but that's the truth.
Jimmy, what I'm saying is this is why we do these things different, and why I like putting people to work based on facts. The reason why I'm using it as an example is, even if we want to go biblical, when Moses was sent to free the people, they said, "Who sent you? I am sent me." It doesn't matter what you say in writing. If you don't back up what you say, everything on TesLaFigaro.com, I back it up. So that's why I'm a little bit more aggressive. That's why people may not see me as positive. That's why they may not see it. But it's about getting the job done. I did not send any volunteers to any of the I'm not going to call any names. I have plenty of friends that called asking, hey, can you send volunteers down to work with you? And guess what? I'm not sending volunteers anywhere to do anything, because people need to get paid. If people are paying to get into the event, then pay the volunteers. I believe in these things, and these are things that I know that are true and certain, and there's a reason why you have the #1 high school dropout rate in the state of Florida. I told the Commissioner of Education in 2012 at Hope Church, in front of Hope Church, when he said that, we just need to focus on the positive. Let's not focus on the ones who didn't pass the FCAT. And I called him a lie in the church. And now that everyone has seen the product of what a 19-year-old looks like who's still in high school, Rachel Gentile, now everybody's so confused. I said this 2 years ago. But since everyone was focusing on the positive and we have to start somewhere, guess what? The Commissioner of Education quit that job less than 6 months. Because he himself, without good conscience, could not continue to go around the state of Florida with these lies. And to stand up in the church and tell people to not focus on where about the ones that passed, let's focus on the victory. This is why we are getting nowhere as a people. We have been doing this for 200-300 years. When is something going to work?
Well, I think it's going to work when we get behind people that are actually going to create change, instead of getting behind people because of the political party they may be associated with. But that takes an education of a people, and clearly I know that you're about educating people. But yeah, that takes an education of people. That takes another generation of people, unfortunately. And it's going to take progress. One of the things that we fail to do a lot in our community, in my opinion anyway, is we don't, like you talked about initially, we don't educate ourselves on what people are actually doing. We educate ourselves on what party they're associated with. We educate ourselves on some of the things that they got in front of a microphone and talked about, but we don't necessarily educate ourselves consistently on the things that they actually did when they had that position in office. And so education, we got to start supporting people based on what they're actually doing.
It's not even about what party they're associated with. I don't want to bash anybody, but there's a senator right now that is most voted in and no accountability to their votes, pretty much 90% of the time Republican. So it's not about what party they're associated with, it's how do they vote.
Right, exactly. That's the point,
Are you taking the time to go see, just because somebody's a Democrat, and most people think that just because somebody's a Democrat and a Republican, that they're automatically voting in those policies. But I got news for you. Plenty of guess what? Democrats never want to pay. Republicans, every time I've placed somebody on the job, it's come from a black Republican in a position of power to put somebody to work. Breaking news.
Right. I mean, that's one of the things
that's a fact. Now, I'm only going on a small sample. It doesn't mean all Republicans are good, and I'm a registered independent for the record. But I'm talking about putting people to work. Until people are put to work, you're going to continue to have more black men in prison, like now that those enslaved in 1860. And this is what this conversation is really, really about. Half the black men in the state of Florida can't even drive because they have suspended license due to not paying child support. I'm a single mom. I understand the importance of child support, but why suspend the brother's license? He'll never get a job.
Right, he won't get a job. And if he did, he has no way to get there.
Yeah.
Right. Listen, Bishop T.D. Jakes, that's my church. I love him, from Dallas, Texas. I even told them, guess what? We're not volunteering. If Bishop can come to Orlando and pay money to, I'm just giving it to you real because I don't have anything to lose. If they can charge everybody to come into the conference and get these books, you're going to pay my high school staff to be there. We had 30 people there the next day, and out of 30 people, not one of those students had a vehicle to get to the Orange County Convention Center. Something is wrong with that. And these students I'm talking about are students that are parents, are students that are the only ones in their family that are working in their household, and like I said, one young lady who was 19 years old and struggled throughout that whole process. I made women just like Rachel into leaders at the Amway Center. It can be done. Let's talk about the money. What happened with the money that Crump and Alden raised? Could they not have spent more time getting her prepared as a witness? I do it all the time. What happened to the awesome plate that Al Sharpton was passing around, embarrassing most of us across the nation? We have to get honest in these. No disrespect to our leaders in the past who have done things, and I know a lot of things get done. I'm just trying to tell you the conversations that are actually happening and why you're not seeing a result. You're not seeing a result because it's just a bunch of conversations. Right. It's just a bunch of panels. You're not moving, and you need leaders to make people move. And people don't want leaders like me because I am aggressive, because I am straight to the point. I am clear. I don't make people feel good. Jason and I actually ran against each other. But I outdid him in petitions in one night with Hard and Heavy Riders, who were a motorcycling club that got 300 petitions for me in 4 hours. Now, nothing against him because he knows me and I know him well. But I'm giving you the truth. But see, they don't want to look at Hard and Heavy Riders, bikers, as valuable people in the community, even though they're employed, even though they work like everyone else. These are the things that I'm telling you have been said verbatim from leaders up high.
That's because a lot of people, like you said, when you're talking political, it is just that, it's political, and so you got to look a certain way, you got to act a certain way, you got to talk a certain way. Otherwise, unfortunately, they discount you, and you're right, that's wrong, but it is our reality, and we have to change that reality. So again, shout out to you for continuing the fight on that.
Well, really, I'm not continuing to fight because I'm just simply putting people to work. I'm not a freedom fighter. I don't believe in a bunch of conversations. I got off during that period. I learned a lot as a candidate, and I appreciate that. But this is just what's in my heart and soul. I'm in Oklahoma City right now doing commentary in the FM station here. I don't wait on people to give me opportunities. I go find it. Did the same thing in South Carolina. I got off the ballot and went and organized 2,000 plus in South Carolina to get out the vote. I don't wait on boundaries. I don't wait on state lines, and I definitely don't allow someone to tell me what I can and cannot do. So I just give a little glimpse of what's going on behind the scenes, and it's up to people if they want to hear the truth. If they want to actually look it up and see the 10 recommendations and see what was done and ask your legislator what was done, then fine. If not, if you want to feel good and be positive and take offense and just get yet another backpack and yet another fish fry to earn someone's vote, then you're going to continue to see the same thing over and over and over.
Well, I personally feel that we do have to get the next generation involved. And me personally, I think it all starts when you're going to come with young people. I think it starts with music. Once we change the music that they listen to, it would kind of change their focus. Because right now, everything that they listen to is everything that they're trying to focus on, and they're trying to be like the people that they're seeing in these reality shows that you were speaking of. And like Jim says, we have to, it won't be this generation, it'll be the next generation.
Well, guess what, Jimmy? You want me to tell you what changed those 200 students that I actually worked with, that the NBA sent me a letter saying, I can't believe the outstanding work that you've done, that the COO sent a paycheck.
I would say a job.
They don't want to hear about what you need to change. I actually sat there and did freestyle with Jasmine, Anthony, a lot of my young students, and I actually taught them that metaphors should be seen with stories about the truth. And if you're not on the block, then there's no point in you rapping about being on the block. They listen to you, but they listen via paycheck. They don't want to hear the stories. They don't want to hear about what you should be doing. These kids out here hurting. And they're going to go to the block. I don't know which side of town. I don't know everybody's background.
Well,
but
see,
I'm telling you
that's what I'm saying though. They don't. They only think of the block because that's what they hear in the music. If the music wasn't talking about fast money, if the music wasn't talking about the block, they wouldn't be thinking about the block. And that's my whole thing, because most people, they try to go to school systems, they try to go to a babysitter, they try to do anything besides teaching their own kids, and that's what they try to tend to. When they got this music, and the music is really like their role model, because that's who they looking up to, because that's who they seeing with all this money, with all the women, with everything that they feel like life should be. That's what they feel like they want to be. So now they don't want a job anymore. They want to see the people.
But have you reached them? I'm trying to tell you how to reach them. Have you took someone that was listening to that music and changed their mentality? I'm asking you, have you done that personally?
Yes. That's why I do positive inspirational rap. You can go on my Facebook page, Mr. Michael King. But that's what the radio stations that we have here are what I think is 95.9, the positive hip-hop music, because that's where the change is. You have to change the youth, and you got to change the music.
I understand that, but we cannot avoid the direct question I asked. Have you took someone that was from the block or on crack, on drugs, personally, and just because they listened to better music, did that change their life?
Teslin, I believe everybody in this studio, all four of us up here, have touched.
I can't hear what she's saying.
What is wrong with my mic?
I hear what she's saying, but I can't hear her.
She said yes.
Hello?
Okay, so...
Hello?
So,
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay.
Away.
I was saying that everybody in this studio has touched somebody, just like you're talking about, has physically mentored or touched some young person and has tried to help them better their life, better their thinking, better their education, better their life through a church, through whatever organization we're in, through our jobs. Whatever the case may be, you're asking the question, have we personally done that? Yes, we have.
Right. Well, absolutely. We all touch someone. We all inspire someone. We've all, we're all involved in different organizations. We've all made a difference. What I'm saying is the only time someone's truly going to get off that block is by being able to earn an income. This generation that's out now, they need to earn an income, period. When you're starving, they need to earn an income. And the longer that we're not talking about the opportunity to earn an income, the people that I've worked with from the streets, once I was able to actually deliver what I said instead of just another hope and change and you can do it and inspiration, that does work with someone. That does work for some. But right now I'm in Oklahoma City because I'm working on a case of my 20-year-old cousin who was just murdered, gunned down 60 days ago over using money because he did not have it, and it was fake money. So what I'm trying to say is jobs bring stability, they bring character, they build up who you are, and they give you an income. So we may not like the fact that some of the kids are listening to what they're listening to. We may not like the fact that they're smoking weed. We may not like the fact that the things they're doing. I would also suggest to you there's a lot about Trayvon's background and George's background that didn't make it to court. We may not like those things. But the only time I've been able to get somebody who was strung out on crack to listen to what I actually had to say is when I was able to help him keep those lights paid.
Well,
and then those
that I can agree with. I can agree with that because it's you don't have to get them a job though, because there are multiple trades. There are multiple ways other than jobs. You can teach them how to make money. And that's why I say with the music, because the music is teaching you about fast money. And that's all the music is teaching you, how to go on the block and make fast money. The music is not teaching you, hey, you can go be a plumber. Like the president said, you can go be Joe the plumber. And the music isn't teaching you that. That's where the parents come into play. My question was, why was the man walking around at night,
For sure. All of that is a part of the equation. Remember, I'm a hip-hop artist, so clearly I believe in music, and I believe involving people who are in the music industry. But I just want to know, when are we going to start talking about the jobs? It starts there. And now that a lot of these men are getting out on retroactive sentencing, and a lot of people who were locked up behind the alleged war on drugs who are now getting out 12, 13, 14 years, and they're getting out on these sentences, they're going to need jobs. And if they don't, they're going to go back to what they know. That's just plain and simple. At some point in time, they're just going to get frustrated. The crime is going to go up, and then they'll be locked up for the third time, which contributes to the private industrial complex, which is lifelong slavery.
Right.
So all of those conversations sound good, and I'm certainly not saying that nobody does those things. Clearly, this is not meant to offend, but that happens sometimes, because I'm just very clear and strong about what I'm saying, and I believe this. And I know for a fact if a man cannot earn a living, then a lot of men are going to just do what they need to do. Conversations touch some. Hugs touch some. All of that touches some. But there are more who are not touched by talk because they've been lied to and told they're going to be given opportunity and hold on a little while longer and sing just a little while longer. Go listen to Ballad of the Bullet by Malcolm X. It's very relevant even still today. He talked about these things over 40 years ago.
Right.
40 years ago, talking about the same thing I'm talking about right now, and nothing has been done. He was assassinated 2 days after making that speech. The truth is the truth.
The truth is the truth. And we thank you for calling in,
Thank you.
I appreciate your conversation. Jobs is definitely where it's at. We thank you for calling in tonight.
But to the point of what Mr. King was saying, I believe there are jobs, and if you read a couple of articles, the jobs that African Americans don't do anymore that now the Hispanic community is now doing, those jobs are somewhat beneath us because of the money in the fast money lifestyle of the hip hop generation. So I hear what he's saying when he's saying like these dudes, they're like, oh, okay, I could sell this or that, these drugs, and make this quick 1,000 and get me some rims like Rick Ross or whatever, as opposed to working at McDonald's, working at Chick-fil-A.
A lot of that has to do with, I think, education, though. Through education, one can open their eyes to see that there is a different way. But in terms of jobs too, another issue that comes up with that is if you look across the country, and I know it's a challenge for some of us to be able to move sometimes, but there are opportunities out there sometimes if you're just able to kind of move your surroundings a little bit, and then maybe not necessarily stay in Orlando, but maybe move to some other city within Florida to find work. And so a lot of times we kind of get pigeonholed because we aren't able to do that, or we're not willing to do that to move, because especially when you're talking about one thing that's happening right now in the Dakotas, there's a boom in the Dakotas relative to jobs. I think the Dakotas have a unemployment rate right now of around 3.5–4%, which is one of the lowest in the country. And so, but the question becomes, are you willing to uproot yourself and move to Dakotas? And move out there with the quote unquote the cornfields
and snow
and some snow, but the jobs out there are paying really good. So I mean, there's opportunities.
When are we gonna start teaching ourselves to start our own businesses, though? That's something you don't learn in schools. And the thing about it, with it being a limit of jobs, start your own business, get a trade. You can get a trade and start your own, write your own checks versus going to work for somebody that's going to write you a check, and now you got to listen to what they say at a job that you don't really want to be at.
Amen.
Start your own business. It's that simple, but we don't teach those ethics. We don't teach you, hey, you want to start that kind of business? Well, let's go work for that type of company. Let's go intern, work for free, because that's the kind of business that you're going to start. That's the trade that you're going to learn. Women do it. Why? Because they're doing hair. They're like, well, you know what? I'm going to do hair. I'm going to go get me a booth, and I'm going to do hair. That's going to be my money. I ain't got to answer nobody. But as men, what do we do besides cut hair? We can cut grass. Too many of them got that pride. I can do this. I can do that. As she was saying, I can make $1,000 where I can cut 5 yards when I can go sell this 5 of those and I can make $10,000 type mentality. And it needs to change. It starts with the music. If they stop hearing that nonsense, then what else would they listen to? You can listen to a rap song in the morning, or you can listen to gospel, and it's going to give you two different emotions in that morning. One of them is going to give you a more, it depends on you in that day. But I definitely feel like, once the music changes, the mentality changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a part of it. And that certainly would contribute. But I think a lot of it just goes, again, it goes back to education. Until you know more, you can't do more. And that's where it starts. opening businesses is a great idea, but I think before you can open a business, you probably do need to work for somebody to figure out.
That's why you intern. Right, that's what everybody
does.
You
do need to work somebody to figure out how a business is actually run. So that, again, having those opportunities, sometimes those opportunities, because there's so many businesses out there that we're not even aware of that we can do, and I think just expanding our mind, talking about the Dakotas, there's so much opportunity working in the natural gas and the oil industry that aren't afforded to you working in other industries. I mean, there's gentlemen working in those industries making high 5-figure salaries, and they're not being managers. They don't own the company, but they're making these great salaries. So it's about expanding out opportunities, man. And then once you understand how a business works, like you say, then you're able to go out and figure out how you can manipulate that business to perhaps do something that can benefit you personally. So expanding your mind, it's about education, man. Reading is fundamental. A book of some kind, a book that just encourages you to expand your mind. Those types of things. That's how you move forward, and that's what our young men need. That's what they unfortunately aren't getting. And music is one thing, because you can listen to certain music all day, but if you're always educating your mind, the song in itself is not going to change how you act. So it's really about educating your mind. I mean,
that is not true.
Music will help.
That is not true. That's what music
but it's not
does.
Exclusively the key.
Music implements the thought. And once the thought is in your mind, your thoughts become your habits, and your habits become your actions. And music implements the thought in your mind. You say, oh, it's just a song. Oh, I'm just listening to the beat. But now whatever lyrics that song is saying is in your mind. You may not want to accept it, but subconsciously, you've already accepted it. It's in there. Nothing you can do about it. You don't even have to be listening to it. But that's the power of music, though. And that's why I say with the change of that, and that's why we don't even control our music anymore. They control our music and tell us what to put out so they can control us and tell us what to wear, tell us what to buy. We don't wear no Gucci and all of that. But Gucci is supporting the rap artist and telling that rap artist, I'm going to give you $10,000 so that you can just say Gucci, 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 Gucci. Now all the little kids going to want Gucci, and now I'm going to make $50,000. And that is called selling out.
Yeah, but I would say these days they don't actually control our music. By the way, if you need to chime in, 407-894-1680. They don't control the music as much as they control the means to hear it.
They control both of them. You can't you got to go to Universal.
No. What I'm saying is, with the internet, you can find your niche. If you hustle and you grind, you can find your niche and put your music in front of maybe not just as many people, but it's just as accessible as anything else because anything can be downloaded now. That's why a lot of the power is taken out of their hands. But what I would like to say, let's just going back to education. A lot of times, people can't see past what's in front of them, and if their environment influences them a lot, that's why a lot of times education is the answer. But a lot of people, they don't see people in front of them educating themselves, and they don't see anything good coming from it because they can't relate to anything like that. So when you talking about afraid to change, the best thing to do for most people is to move away from the city they grew up in, at least for 4 or 5 years. Move away, see something different, see how people act in different areas, see how things progress in different areas, and then you can come back. And you'll be all right then. But when you move away, get a job, hopefully get a job. It's hard out there, but there is some jobs out there. We as men, our biggest problems are our egos. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Yeah. Hey, I've been through that myself, but I had to humble myself a lot of times.
Cause you was close to Dakota, wasn't you?
I wasn't that close.
Well,
I was halfway up. I was halfway north, but I wasn't that close.
You was up there with the snow.
Fargo.
Oh yes, I was in the snow.
You was in the country part of the country, right?
No, it wasn't that country.
It wasn't that country.
It wasn't that country.
Ain't it the country music capital?
I was in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
That's the country music capital.
No, Nashville is the country music capital.
Murfreesboro.
And Nashville is a big city actually.
He was in Murfreesboro.
But I was in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Learned a lot up there, had fun up there, matured a lot up there. So it was just a great thing for me to step away.
But
and you just gotta try to have that courage and hopefully, let's say when you mentoring people, as Tez was saying about getting the guys off the block, you got to get them guys and take them away from their neighborhood.
Yeah.
Let's go over here. Let's go. Hate to say it, but let's go over the east side of town and get something to eat. Let's go to Altamont just so they can see. Because you'd be surprised how many people have really never stepped foot out of between their neighborhood and where that school bus takes them to that school. A lot of them have never really stepped foot out of there as being aware. Maybe when they're little, they might have seen some things, but by the time they're 14, 15, they haven't left that diameter. They haven't left.
Especially in a little town like Sanford. A lot of them have not been out of Sanford. Some of them haven't even been to Orlando.
I would be speaking, just say, even when I was in Tennessee, I was in Murfreesboro. We were about 30 minutes maybe away from Nashville. Surprised people, they don't even want to go to Nashville. Oh, there's too many people there. It's da-da-da, you know what I'm saying? So, a lot of times that's a mindset. That's a mindset. So you get pigeonholed a lot of times into this small environment because you're comfortable. Right. And you know this, and I can navigate my way through this environment. But if I go over here, I'm going to have to learn another set of rules. I'm going to have to learn how to act a certain way. I'm going to have to carry myself a certain way because what you did over here is not going to work over here.
Yeah, we have to expand our environment, expand our minds. Like you were saying, read everything. Just consume more than 140 characters. That's Twitter. Consume more than Facebook statuses.
I'm mad you know that.
Consume more than blogs. Like, actually read. And then read things that challenge you. Like, as much as I do not like Fox or anything close to it, I go and I read just to get a perspective to see just how crazy they are thinking, or if there is some kind of truth to it. And then sometimes I can see where they're trying to go, and then it just turns all left. It just turns left. Your people, J-Real. Those your people.
They're always my people.
But that helps me to then get my thoughts clear, and either I need to adjust my thinking or take that into consideration. Like, it all starts with, like, going back to education. Just educate ourselves.
But even also as parents, we still should continue educating ourselves, because a lot of parents don't know how to be parents yet, and they're still learning. Hey, it's trial and error, A lot of them, they oldest kid messed up. But then the youngest kid, he A-okay. I don't understand how that happens sometimes, but that's how it happens sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you crazy.
Are you speaking some truth there,
I'm
Mr.
just saying.
You're
I'm just saying
something personal.
And I would say this too. Getting back to like Tess was saying about jobs. It is very, very crucial, especially the young black men. A lot of the young black men that I talk to, I like to talk to them. I actually don't even really talk to them about jobs. I really be trying to capture their mindset first, because a lot of them, when you capture their mindset and you realize, okay, why don't they want to work, or why they don't like the job they're at, so, and things like that. And you have to break stuff down to them a lot of times. They say, well, when you walk in the job, you just don't become the manager the next week because you figured out how to wash the dishes.
Right.
You have to. It's a slow process, and you got to make them understand the process. Because a lot of times they'll look at you, oh, you doing this and this. Hey, you know what did the 10 years before this? Or they see, let's say, let's get to music. They see a guy like Jay-Z on top end, but did you know what he did between 88 and 95? It was a grind. It was a hustle. Even if you want to do the music, it's a grind. It's a slow process. You just don't get there tomorrow.
Yeah. For
most people, let's say that. It does happen, but the percentages say it's not going to happen for you. So you got to be willing to put in the work. You got to really, like I said, you got to change the mindset and let them know it's a grind. Life is a grind. Don't worry about so much where am I going to be next year, but where am I going to be 10 years from now if I just stay here and just work hard, try to educate myself as much as I can. And just work.
That's that stock market mindset. Because when you're dealing with the stock market, you have to look 10 years ahead. You can't look at, okay, I'm going to buy this stock for right now, maybe 2 years. You got to look 10 years ahead. And we don't even teach our kids about the stock market.
No.
Not at all.
Well, and let me get back to this. And we neglected to do this, and we should have. Shame on all of us, actually. Let's bring it back to church. When you bring it back to church, and you when you pull kids in church, you know, you're showing them different ways, and when you're explaining faith, because like I said before, you know, a lot of people can't see past what's in front of them. And even when we get older, we're the same way. You know, we may be on a good job, but like we mad because, well, I don't see a promotion in my future because I got all these people in front of me. You know, but that's where it comes in when you're teaching people about faith, seeing past what's in front of you. You know, because that's very important in anything you do. Because if you just look from what's in front of you, you will never be happy. You will be upset the rest of your life. You're gonna be stressed out. And you're going to have everybody else around you irritated and mad with you. So you got to be able to see past what's in front of you.
Well, you know, piggybacking on that idea, you know, one of the things that is lacking these days is black folks aren't into the church like that anymore. For the most part, we spend a lot of time talking about what the church ain't doing, so that the church doesn't have as much as it might have when we were growing up 15, 20 years ago. I don't think the church carries the same weight with the younger generation, because you do find, you know, and not to knock any preachers or anything, because you know people have to remember the preacher is just a man. And he is going to sin just like you're going to sin. Hopefully his sin is not going to embarrass him, but he's going to sin. But for whatever reason, you know, people hold preachers on pedestals, and when that preacher gets knocked off the pedestal, it's just another time for them now to knock whatever the church is about and what have the church has accomplished and whatnot. So you don't find people into the church like that anymore, which is why most people don't necessarily carry that faith. That faith mentality, because they don't have any connection to it, and so all that they see is what is exactly in front of them. So that's a change and a shift that the black communities have for, you know, traditions. We've been into the church, but we see now a lot of times young people just aren't into it anymore. Which is where, you know. But
a lot of that too is, I say us because I'm part of the church that this covers the church family in general, that we're not in the streets like we used to be. You know, 15, 20 years ago, and not saying all this, because there are some churches in the streets here in town. You see them. You know, you see them on the weekends, or you even see individuals during the week, even though they're not representing the church. They're just out there themselves because that's their ministry. But as a whole, I don't think we're in the streets like I know we're not in the streets like we used to be and like we should be. We're not in there, including myself. I'm right. Hey, I can't sit up here and say, hey, I'm out here up our hills and Silver Star. You know, I can't say that I am. But I think we all have to do better at that.
I think we do too. I was just speaking yesterday about it's more atheists in 2013 than I've ever noticed in my life. And I believe it's because of that reason, that we're not in the streets. We're not setting the examples that we're supposed to be and that we're used to setting. Mm-hmm. A lot of us are strayed. Some never came back. Some went back, but then they didn't go and try to save souls back in the streets where they were. I think we really do have to get back in the streets, knocking on doors and taking back over our neighborhoods, one neighborhood at a time.
And even when like Tez was saying earlier, how she was getting on the education commissioner, how he was saying let's worry about the positive ones who passed the FCAT. See, that is a big problem. And I had my mom. She taught school for years. She retired, and I had that conversation with her. I was like, it's too much money, too much emphasis on the kids that are going to be all right, and we're not going to be all right. You know, and I was one of those kids that they felt like that because I was in honors and all that good stuff, and it was all good. No, thank you. But what about the kids that were straddling the fence, that just needed somebody to come help them? When you put money into those kids, because like I'm telling you, most of those honors kids, they're going to be all right. I don't care if you send them to an F school with one teacher. Because they have ambition, because they want to be educated, they're going to figure it out. They're going to graduate high school, and if they want to go to college, they're going to go. But these other kids who straddle the fence, and maybe we put some more money behind them, we can push some of them to college, and then those other kids that are not on the fence that feel like they don't want to go to college, they don't want to do this, maybe they'll see these kids on the fence that they kind of hang with, and you go pull some of them along. Now, unfortunately, some of them you're not going to pull along because some people just don't want to do certain things. That's just their mentality, and that's just how they are. But I think there's a whole group of kids out there that we're missing because, especially with the budget constraints, you know, they're not even really developing kids like they used to. There's no money, especially like the FCAT. Like, teachers spend 2-3 months teaching this test, and then they get through the grade, and the kids don't even know nothing.
I agree with that. And I think, personally, America is doing that on purpose to try to.
I agree.
I think if you're not the best of the best, then we want you over there. And we want the best of the best over there. And they're trying to really separate it and make you, if you're not smart enough, not bright enough, then we're going to make you struggle type thing, because we're going to make you feel that way. Lower your self-esteem by giving you all these standardized tests. And we know you're not going to pass them because the way they're giving biased tests. The school system in America sucks, in my opinion. But
as a whole, it does. But even it's going back to. I remember I said this last year on the program. It's not an accident. It's the working class they are trying to create, or poor class that they
not create. I would say maintain.
Maintain and build. Let's say that. Maintain and build, because like I said, when you're talking about warehouse work or work stuff that pushes consumer goods into stores and stuff like that, somebody has to do those jobs. And most people, when you get educated, you're not going to do them. I'm not going there. And if you go, maybe you're there. Some people, you get humble. You go there for a few months to get on your feet because you don't have a job, but then you're going to be right out of there. So now they got to replace you. So they need a steady workforce there to push all these goods.
And that's the reason why, to a certain extent, I agree, because everything has to have a balance. They wouldn't not have built the pyramids if everybody was royalty. Somebody had to go down there and lift up them heavy bricks.
That is true, but you know what the bigger issue is?
What's the bigger issue?
Our consumption. Our greed and our consumption creates that. Because I want milk at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not smart enough to get up and get it at 8 o'clock the day before, and now somebody got to work a 12-hour shift to make sure that milk get across the country at 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's not my problem.
Actually, it's everybody's problem.
You want to know what my problem is? My problem is, why we as black people still where we at? How we downgraded? We was at a point where we wouldn't shop at your store if it wasn't black owned, and now it's just like, man, I go anywhere, just give it to me for cheap.
It's greed. It's greed and consumption.
Well, it's not even that, but that's a whole nother. I could do an hour on that topic alone, but so I won't infuse that one into the conversation. I'd be remiss though. I have to ask. We only got a couple minutes left in the show. Of course, President Obama gave a speech on Friday. I can assume what you guys are going to say, but I'd just love to hear your comments on the speech that he gave on Friday. You guys know what I'm talking about, correct?
I mean, it's a speech. I mean, I don't have no big comment on it. I mean, you take it for what it is. But going back to how Ted said, is it going to change anything? Is it going to do anything about it? I mean, it is what it is. It's words.
He had to say something.
Yeah, basically.
I mean,
I'm glad he said it. He had to say something, and I'm glad he said it. He could have had a Trayvon. Trayvon could have been him 35 years ago. I'm glad he said it.
Does it help push the conversation forward and get racial profiling?
Of course not. You don't even got to finish the question.
We got to implement things.
Nothing's going to change as far as profiling. We still gonna get followed in the stores, in certain stores at least. If you talking about change, you talking about 20, 30 years from now. You got a whole generation of people who were born before 1960, before 1970, and some of them even after that. There's nothing you go say or do go change their mindset about you. No matter how many pieces of paper you put on your wall, how expensive your tie is, or your car. It's just not. Some stuff is just not going to. Some people, I should say, are just not going to change.
Right. And
that generation has to kind of go away. Even getting back to, like she said, that old time black leadership, they have to go away for some things to start changing.
Well, if the Bible says it's not going to get better,
it does. It's going to get worse.
And what are we supposed to do then?
That doesn't mean you stop fighting. It says it gets worse, but it don't tell you to stop living right. It don't tell you to stop living a saved life. So I mean, when you apply that to life, that don't mean you stop trying. That don't mean everybody's going to be lost. You're still supposed to grab as many people as you can. That should be our objective, at least.
Gotcha.
Amen.
All right. Well, we are winding down here. We want to thank you for listening tonight to our conversation. We want to again thank our guest, Tesleen Figaro, for calling in and talking with us. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I do. I love your passion. I just got to say that. I do. I just love it.
Yeah, she knows her stuff.
I love it.
Definitely. And so, again, we want to just thank you for listening. Remember, join us next week as well, 9 p.m., Real Family Talk, same channel, same show. We thank you. Just one last comment. You made a good point. The president did a good job in his speech. Does it change the narrative? Unfortunately not. But it just expands the idea that, again, we have to be more inclusive in these conversations if we really want change to happen. And that's I hope moving forward, maybe we can get some of that, and maybe we can actually see some real change happen in this country. Thanks for listening. You can follow us on Twitter, Real Family Talk, the website, realfamilytalk.weebly.com.
WOKB, Winter Garden, Orlando.